Thank you, Alison. And yes, you have started to address some of these questions, and we get a better sense, what is more likely to be insured and what is more likely to be handled, on its own. But importantly, before insurance, a lot has to be done in the context of a risk management process. This needs funding. As we have seen in Mexico, a trust fund has been established dealing with both. Having funding available to implement this risk management, but also to start to insure. And so before we give back to Alison to talk about concrete insurance concepts, I'd like to invite Camille from Blue Seeds. And you have done some specific work focusing on the Solomon Islands, on how to establish such a conservation trust fund. And so, without further ado, I give over to you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Camille. I'm from Blue Seeds, which is a company working on financing solutions for marine conservation, which can include coral, as a consultant. But I can also share with you, because some of you know already, I'm also a fund manager dedicated to social entrepreneurship and sustainable blue economy, mostly with small-scale fishing. And I'm not used to room like this, and I don't go on fishing boats with fishers with these shoes. Okay, we are going to discuss the financing solutions identified for Solomon Islands, because from the beginning of the project, we knew that the Solomon Islands were not willing to implement parametric insurance, and we focused on financial solutions for, conservation straight ahead. So the requirements, we worked with the requirements from these projects. We were required to inform conversations about financing solutions. It was called a Coastal Resilience and Management Fund. I will call it a fund. And it's dedicated to coral reef and coastal communities resilience. And in terms of geographical scope, it's the Arnavan Community Marine Park for conservation, but also the coastal resilience of the 3 communities living around the marine protected area and the protection of coral reef. It needs to have the ability to scale up to other areas in the Solomon Islands. It can also be other protected areas, so locally managed areas, for example. And our scope was also to make sure that this fund will have the ability to make parametric insurance payments and provide blended finance to make sure also it can scale up and increase its scope. We also considered sustainability requirements, legal feasibility, of course, cost effectiveness, and we also looked at standards for conservation trust funds based on internationally recognized norms and donor expectations. We use the Conservation Finance Alliance guidelines. And of course, all of this needs to be aligned with the Solomon Islands conservation priorities and the needs of the stakeholders. So our objective was not to design a fund on paper only. Instead, we aim to determine the most realistic financing mechanisms for the Solomon Islands that could attract capital, meet sustainability standards, and support large-scale conservation. A few examples here of other conservation trust funds, a little bit random because there are more than 100 around the world. But let's share it with you now. The Seychelles Conservation and Climate Adaptation, CCAT, has demonstrated how a blended finance structure can evolve into a nationally recognized and policy-aligned mechanism. There is also the example of the Micronesia Conservation Trust, which shows how a small grant arrangement, a regional approach, can successfully channel funding through to national and community-level conservation efforts. It's now accredited by the Green Climate Fund. And more recently, the Papua New Guinea Biodiversity Conservation Fund, PNGBCF, was designed and then created with a $5 million $5 million American dollars endowment, which is a great success. So what do they have in common? They deliver predictable long-term financing, they meet international fiduciary standards, they have strong independent governance, they are locally legitimate, and they are capable of attracting diversified sources of capital. Returning to our approach in the Solomon Islands, this was based on lessons learned from other projects, both successes, challenges, and sometimes failures. Firstly, our approach was needs-driven. The operational budget of the ACMP, Arnavon Community Marine Park, to cover rangers' salaries, management, and fuel, which is the second biggest expense for managing this protected area, is 100,000 American dollars each year. That covers basics, and it's covered by 40% from the endowment managed by the Nature Conservancy, which was started in 2006, but it's only 40%. The 60% remaining still comes from the Nature Conservancy as additional donations and other projects. So there is a gap that needs to be addressed in the future just for management. There are additional costs required for coral reef protection, the implementation of reef brigades, potential restoration costs, and we also looked at pilot activities, community positive reef and communities positive businesses, such as the cultivation of giant clams. And then we kept in mind that an endowment fund typically requires around $5 million American dollars to generate meaningful annual returns capable of supporting long-term management at scale. We had the information on total costs only at the end of the project, but you can see that from the operational budget of Arnavon Community Marine Park and the minimum viable scale, we can find a way to make this work. Then we looked at the legal structure. This was one of the most important factors, the legal feasibility, because in the case of Solomon Islands, regulation was a constraint. It will be discussed more tomorrow. And I'm looking at the team over there from Solomon Islands. Please feel free to come to them and also ask questions. So constitutional and public finance provision currently in Solomon Islands limit the creation of fully independent funds in the Solomon Islands. So rather than forcing an ideal model that would not function in practice, we had to keep our options open through the project. And the process was as important as the outcome. The insight we gained into trust, timing, regulation, and pragmatism can be applied across the region, hopefully. So we continuously updated our analysis as stakeholders consultation evolved, government positions became clearer, and also regulatory discussions progressed. Timing was also critical, and around funding, potential funding for coral reef protection, there is current global momentum, and we didn't want to miss that window. And the most decisive factor here in this creation was, of course, stakeholder engagement. That means the Solomon Islands government, the community managing the Arnavon Community Marine Park, the Kawaki ladies, who are a group of women working on different topics, including conservation, businesses, culture, made of the three communities who are located around the marine protected area, scientists, development banks, everyone we could speak to was included into the conversation. So for the stakeholder engagement, the key lessons, the time was essential. It took about 2 years for us to be able to explain complex financial concepts. and then be able to explain it simply and repeatedly. The trust in the messenger also matters a lot. The credibility of the team presenting the information proved to be critical. Trust in the future fund host institution matters equally. And once we were able to reach consensus, we just made sure and revalidated it because we wanted to make sure that everyone was aligned. We also learned that being transparent about constraints, well, that included legal limitation, it builds more trust than presenting ideal solutions. So in short, the technical design succeeds only when social legitimacy is secured. And so I will now display the final option that is currently making a lot of sense for the project. Consensus has emerged towards the end of the year last year around establishing a Solomon Islands dedicated sub-fund within the Coral Triangle Conservation Fund, or CTCF for short. We see it as a stepping stone before a new independent fund can be created under Solomon Islands law. And we are very happy with this. It's not something that we anticipated will be the solution at the beginning, so it means that it was built over the project. So the first option, the fund made in the Solomon Islands with the current law, was not applicable, not now, but in the future, very soon. And then the second option also, just to let you know, it's the current endowment fund managed by the Nature Conservancy and already contributing to the Arnavan Community Marine Park. It's very important for Arnavan Community Marine Park, but the scope itself and management and community ownership was too limited to be considered as an option for this project, but it's still part and very important part of a diversified mix of sources for the Arnavan Community Marine Park. Okay, so our option of creating a sub-fund of the CTCF is not the final destination, but the most viable option at this time and a stepping stone for the future. We have a lot of next steps because, as I said at the beginning, we were here to inform decisions, but our team is very motivated to transform this information into action and make this a reality, create the sub-fund, and finance it. Okay, I'm going to conclude. A successful long-term financial solution for coral conservation is not built through legal drafting alone. It's built through trust, realism, phased ambition, and strong partnership. So I would like to thank the team and the Solomon Islands team in particular for all their contributions. And if you have any questions on this topic, you can come to me or to them sitting at this table. Thank you very much.